This is lesson 21 concerning prophecies about the gathering of Israel. Many dispensationalists and futurists say that this is referring to our future, that Israel is really yet to be gathered. In fact, some say the gathering began in 1948 when Israel became a nation in the 20th century. Amos 9 and 11 is a prophecy that many propose has not yet been fulfilled and will be fulfilled in a future millennium. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins and I will build it as in the days of old. When the Gentiles received the Holy Ghost in the New Testament in Acts chapter 10, as per Peter's testimony at the Council of Jerusalem in Acts chapter 15, a word had to be shown for the apostles and the church to stand upon in order to know what to do about the situation. Should these Gentiles now become Christians be circumcised as the Jews were? Peter's testimony was wonderful. But Paul also witnessed of God's work amongst the uncircumcised Gentiles, but none of that was answering the question at hand. Did they have to be circumcised? So it was not until James received a word from God in the Scriptures that he applied to the Gentiles coming into the church in that very day that they had their foundation for what to do. James did not quote Amos 9 and 11 in reference to a future time with the Jews being restored to the Promised Land, but he used that to refer to the then present time of Gentiles coming into the church in order to answer the question, should they be circumcised or not? I'm amazed at how people will take that and say Amos refers to the future millennium, when James took it and applied it to their day 2,000 years ago. In Acts 15 and 13, and after they had held their peace, James answered, saying, Men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simon, who is Peter, hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written, After this I will return, and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will again build the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world. Wherefore my sentence is this, that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God, but that we write unto them that they abstain from the pollutions of idols, from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. In other words, we've got our answer. They don't need to be circumcised, because Gentiles were said to come into the church. And what is a Gentile other than an uncircumcised person? The context of this demands that we see that Amos 9 and 11 is referring to that day long ago in the church, 2,000 years ago, when the Gentiles first came into the church. This is entirely the opposite of what much of prophecy teaching has proposed today, claiming that this restoration of the tabernacle of David is a future millennium after the church is gone. The restoration is applied according to the apostles to their day in the church. So it's not that these prophecies are being spiritualized away into nonsense as futurists criticize preterists of doing, but that they've been obscure and veritably unknown to us due to sheer lack of delving into them and studying them. But I've shown you here today that the apostles clearly and explicitly referred to these prophecies as being fulfilled in the church. It's not talking about a return to Palestine in 1948. I propose that the thought of a gathering to Israel in 1948 and before that in steps and stages has nothing to do with God's gathering efforts, since these prophecies, speaking of the regathering, were all referenced by the apostles as speaking spiritually of the church. And we know the apostles' interpretations are the ones that we need to rely upon, rather than prophecy books and dispensationalistic teachings and futurism and texts written in the last 200 years or so. This new kid on the block, dispensationalism, only arrived on the scene in 1830. It hasn't been preached before that. You'll find that the prophecy texts of our day contradict the very words of the apostles in many dispensationalist writings. Many prophecies are plainly understood to us due to the sheer repetition of them. We know them like the backs of our hands, many of them. However, would to God that these other references would have been repeated as much, these other prophecies, and correlated with the interpretations made by the apostles. They've been in our Bibles for 2,000 years, folks, but we simply favored other texts and didn't very much refer to them in our repeated preaching. And therefore it seems odd to look at these things as speaking of the cross and Jesus and the church age. But the apostles' witness validates that very interpretation. We need to study and repeat these as much as we've repeated the other prophecies, and make them all more well known amongst all our churches. God bless you, and continue watching with us.